This video is not a waste, because I know that if you've clicked on this video, you probably want to learn about the execute command, and that probably also means you know a little bit about commands and how to use them in general. So, let's get started. So the first thing to note is that the execute run is basically like executing a regular command. So for example, if I do /give at p diamond axe, you will see that I will get a diamond axe. Now if I were to type in /execute run and then do of course the give afterwards, it still just gives an axe. However, this is an important thing to note because every single command goes back to the run command. For example, as you'll see later on with stuff like the if command. But let's start off with the first thing, starting with execute as. Now the /execute as is essentially, you can imagine it's something like imagining that the player or a certain entity is performing the command. Now this is mainly important for the @s, which of course means self. As you can see, it's gonna give @s a diamond sword, so we're gonna set it to always active. And as you can see, it says no targets matched selector because, well, @s means self, and it was a command block that made the command. But that's where the execute command comes in clutch, because you can actually type in /execute as at p and then do run give diamond sword. And as you can see, I'm now gonna get tons of diamond sword. Right, let's stop that right now. It essentially makes a command block execute a certain command as if it was someone else. Now the next one is the /execute at. Now this one's a lot more useful because, let's say, diamond block. And so if we set it to always active, you will see that it's going to constantly place a diamond block, but it's not actually going to track me. So that is where, once again, the execute command comes in clutch, where we can actually do /execute at p and then do, let's say, once again, diamond block. And of course, right before your command, you should set a run. And so now, as you can see, wherever I walk, it's gonna summon diamonds over my head. And that's because it takes my coordinates relative. So wherever I walk, I'm gonna place diamonds, which is actually a very cool command. This is why the execute command is so cool. Let's do something like lava. Well, as you can see, we are summoning lava. Let's take that off right now. Okay, now that all the lava's gone, let's move on to the next one, which is by far the most useful one. And that is the /execute if. Now, if you're any experienced with command blocks at all, you would probably already know what this is, because you might even know what it is already, because it's so useful. Before giving something, you can place a square bracket and putting a so-called sub command under here, where we do, let's say, team A. So if I do, once again, diamond sword, you can see I actually have the tag of team A. You will see that if we execute it once again, it's not gonna give it because I don't have the tag. And so that's exactly what the if command does. It essentially puts a certain requirement that actually needs to be met before you can do anything. Now, something good to note with the if command in particular is that it actually has a couple sub-alternatives, such as block, blocks, entity, and score. Now, we're not going to touch on anything special, but score is basically that you can pick out a certain score on your scoreboard, which I will make a video on very soon, so make sure to subscribe not to miss it. So, in this video, we're going to be focusing mainly on the entity and block. We can do something like block. Let's say if the block beneath me is light blue concrete. And then you can once again do the run. Let's do give at p diamond sword. And as you can see, it gave it. But if we switch to something like instead just blue concrete, you will see that it doesn't actually give me a sword because, well, I'm not standing on top of the blue concrete, I'm standing on light blue concrete. So now we can actually combine a few. Let's do as at p, and then we'll do if block. Then we are gonna run a give at p water bucket, you know, to clutch with. Okay, well, I can't seem to get the command block to work, but trust me, it does work. I've written the exact same command right here. And you can see that it will give me a water bucket as long as you are in the air. But if I am on the ground, it's gonna say execute subcommand if block test failed. Another one that exists here is the entity, which basically means that whatever entity you choose, let's choose me of course, and then we'll do run give at p water bucket. It doesn't seem that useful because I mean it just has if entity at p. However, the main thing about this is that you can use subcommands, which is just insane. Because that way you can do something like this, where we set out a block and then we do execute if entity at p, and then we'll do within the range of something like 3. Then you are gonna be given a, let's do diamond. And I keep forgetting, of course, put a run before always. And now as you can see, I got 16 diamonds.
12 seconds later.
And with the help of the mixture of course, something like the entity and then the execute at p, you can actually run the summoning of evocation fangs. Now I'm gonna do a little bit longer of a radius, so you can see whenever I get close, it's gonna summon a bunch. I don't know how long. Wait, how quick will I die with this? Okay, that's about right. The next one is the execute position. Now this one is actually probably the simplest out of all of them, but it's not the most useful because it's essentially this. We got a baby chicken. So for those who didn't get what the position is, you can essentially set your coordinates of where you want it to happen. So perhaps you want it to be a few blocks away on the x-axis, and then you can of course do the run, and then we'll do like what, summon at those coordinates a blaze perhaps, and yeah, there you go. Here's another good example of where the subcommands are very useful. You can actually put a certain type of mob that will just die. And the final one that is actually like major and kind of important is the execute unless. Now the execute unless is essentially the opposite of the if command, of course. So we can have perhaps that if we just invert this right now, we can actually have that execute unless an entity is nearby. You can see it's gonna summon it all over the place, but when I get close, it's gonna stop taking damage. So now you can actually kind of have a danger zone, because if I head into, well, let's do the game mode S. You can see when I go away from it, we run, and now we're actually safe. This is like a safe zone. And once again, if we head out, you will see that we are starting to take damage, but as fast as we enter this sort of invisible zone, we're fine. So that is actually what the unless does, of course. It's the inverted version of the if commands. And of course, all these executes are all powered with the final one, which is of course /execute run. This one is pretty straightforward. It just runs a command, whatever you want to do. Let's do the diamond axe this time for some uniqueness. So there you go. That's what the execute run is, which is of course the most important one out of all of them. What a video. And so there you go, how to use the /execute command in Minecraft. Since you watched all the way until the end, you owe me the fact that I'm allowed to self-promo myself, and this time it is going to be my Patreon. If you want to support me making games for you guys, making tutorials for you guys, make sure to join my Patreon. Also, the Discord is very cool too, and also subscribe in all of the junk, really.